Hey guys, welcome back. F1 Manager 2024 is out, and here at Overtake we have a lot of people on the team playing the annual release again. It's one of those motorsport themed games where you can take a break from sim racing and still enjoy the racing action. If you're still wondering if this management game is for you, we've taken a look at the new features and compiled our experience to give you 5 reasons why it's a good idea to give it a try. Since the third installment now in the series has been released on pretty much every console, including the Nintendo Switch, it's also quite accessible and might even be something to play on the go. Let's take a look. The first reason to play F1 Manager with the official license is, of course, the Formula 1 atmosphere. We can tackle the current season, including all teams and tracks, and even have access to talent from F3 and F2. This year, the track's graphics have been reworked. There is a new helicam and over 70,000 lines of real team radio, together with the sequences, which also show pit stops or team reactions during crashes. This is very atmospheric, especially for a manager game.
This race should be a good chance to see what Valtteri Bottas can manage.
They'll be a bit frustrated to start in P18, but if they nail their race strategy, who knows what they can pull off.
This should certainly be a good one, folks.
I don't see my tips.
Just work on your tyres.
Perhaps this is an alternative for hardcore sim racers who don't really warm up to Codemasters F1 game to immerse themselves even deeper into the F1 season. This works either with one of the official teams or, for the first time, with your own, including a livery editor. Within a very short period of time, you really get to know your drivers and staff and become emotionally involved, happy about successes and upset about mistakes. You learn a lot about the different tracks and characteristics of the calendar and have to make strategic adjustments all the time, because a heat battle in Jeddah gives you much less room for engine mapping than races in cooler regions, which brings us to the next point. F1 Manager teaches you a lot about motorsports in general. What's behind it all? How does a team work that needs to be organized for the car and the driver to perform well on track? This game will give you a rough idea of what team managers have to deal with. Why is my driver not improving? Why is he not happy with his race engineer? The new mentality system gives us a bit more tactical depth this year and also adds the human factor. We really like the feature so far. Managing the facilities, human resources, talent scouting and vehicle development are all part of the job. Keeping an eye on the finances, sticking to the budget and keeping the sponsors happy are all part of the job, of course. But I think there's a good balance between all these things. None of it is extremely nerve-wracking or time-consuming, and you don't necessarily have to worry about everything in detail. The game always makes good connections and tells you when something is missing or when you can benefit from something. I was surprised to see Nico Hülkenberg get a bonus from the racing simulator, as he said in many interviews that he is not a big fan of simulator driving. Joking aside, I found the gameplay mix to be very varied during the first few races. I particularly enjoyed experimenting with the direction of the car's development and perfecting the timing of the completion of new designs, for example focusing on slow tracks when Grand Prix like Monaco or Montreal are on the agenda. I find things like the little mini-game to find the perfect setups for the drivers in free practice a bit repetitive, but you can also simulate such sessions. In any case, you should like forms of min-maxing if you want to have fun with a game like this. By the way, if you enjoy our videos, we would really appreciate a like and of course subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss anything in the future. The next reason is race strategy. As sim racers, we also need to develop our ability to read a race. By focusing on this element during the track sessions and looking at the race from above, we get a better feel for the dynamics of a Grand Prix. It's not just about tire choice or changing weather conditions, it's the timing and the interaction between the two drivers that make for very satisfying moments. Of course, in the hot phase of qualifying, when the majority of the field is on its fast lap, you can send your second driver out a little later to spend some traffic on the competition. Analyzing lap times or watching the tire wear of your competitors will also make the time fly by. F1 Manager gives you a lot of freedom to choose your strategy and accompanies the action with informative and easily accessible graphics and info windows. Normally you always know why something didn't work or where you made a mistake. If both drivers start with different strategies, there is a high probability that one of them is not on the right one. But it is just as important to react quickly to virtual safety cars, yellow flags or red flags to gain an advantage. Timing, drawing the right conclusions, macro management and a little bit of luck are the keys to good results. The next reason is accessibility. As already mentioned, F1 Manager 24 is available for most consoles and can even be played with the gamepad. But the difficulty level and the many tutorials are also very beginner friendly in my opinion. As long as you don't skip the messages, they appear every time you enter a certain area of your headquarters. Of course, it's a bit of reading and the occasional video or interactive tutorial would break it up even more. But I, who skipped F1 Manager 23, quickly got back into it. By the way, veterans can also turn off all tutorials in the settings, also in the first season. For the new season with your own team, there are different origins available, which determine how good our facilities and financial possibilities are. With a smaller team, of course, the complexity and options are limited and you can't compete for wins right away. My choice was the origin Automotive Legacy with 2 experienced but not top drivers, and I was very happy because the fight for points with Aston Martin, Mercedes and McLaren is very exciting. The so-called race replays and scenarios are also a great way to get to know the mechanics of the game without having it affect your own career save state. Point number 5 for me is the moments of surprise and things that you can discover later on in F1 Manager. Since mechanical failures are now also possible and you can go high risk, high reward with the self-defined race objectives, which incidentally also applies to the duel behavior during the races, there are always moments that can be a real emotional roller coaster. You should definitely make sure that you always have enough wings in the warehouse. It might also be advisable to let the drivers avoid high curbs under certain circumstances, but there are also surprises awaiting us in the management aspect, such as the contract poker with young talents, which may motivate you to discover the next F1 champion. Let us know in the comments what you particularly like about F1 Manager 24 and what you think is still missing. Emily made a video about this last year. Let us know if you'd like to see her tips and more in F1 Manager 24.